Ladies and gentlemen, today we will be seeing the final 4 hybrids that have a chance to kill the Indom 2.0. Well, welcome to the second to last bracket. I couldn't pronounce the proper term, so let's go ahead and hop in.
Today on Gochi Center, the great hybrid war takes one more step towards its climactic conclusion. Out of over 1,600 contestants, an elite squad of 16 hybrids was selected for the combative tests against the destructive menace unleashed upon the world.
From 16 to 8, now to 4.
After the first round, this cream of the crop was cut in two, with 8 genomes kept in reserve as 8 of their compatriots proceeded on to see who will lead the effort in purging.
Okay, for a second I thought it froze. Nothing was moving.
In the world of this apocalyptic menace. As a refresher, on today's coverage, each remaining 8 hybrids are not being pitted against each other. Instead, each of them is evaluated based on how well they would fare in a one-on-one fight against a 2.0 in a head-to-head battle on neutral ground in the open. No ambushes, no advantages.
Neutral, flat, nothing but grass. No trees, no water, no nothing.
No setup. How they score will be based on how quickly they can end the fight, what condition they will be at the end of that battle, their smarts, and how many fights they can pull off a win. The second round of testing these champions starts now.
Here we go.
Matchup number 1, Predator Rex versus Pharaoh Pelta. Either of these two could weather the storm in a closed quarters brawl with the 2.0, be it an extended fight out in the open like an hour combat scenario, or a proverbial knife fight in the jungle of either getting ambushed or doing the ambush. Pharaoh Pelta can leverage a slightly greater reach thanks to its long tail when talking about singular weapons. Predator Rex, aka Vega, would certainly be able to land more hits consistently thanks to its great arm span and long upper body. Being capable of rearing up and standing as a biped, Predator Rex would also be able to turn around a lot quicker and reposition if its odious opponent tried to pull a flanking maneuver and attack it from the sides or back. Pharaoh Pelta lacks a lot of this maneuverability, meaning it would inevitably get outflanked in fights where it couldn't end the battle quickly with a precise scoring attack or tail swing to the face. However, when it comes to an angle of attack, there is one important distinction between these two designs. With the Indominus 2.0 being as agile as it is, there's a good chance it's going to be able to get around and attack one of its opponents from the back. Vega's main weak spot is enemies targeting it at the tail and spine. Now, this is only a weak spot in that these areas don't have assets the Predator King can call upon to fight back. If the Indominus got it by the tail or climbed on top of it, Vega would have to shake off its opponent or try to reach and grab them to get them off.
Which would be difficult
given its best weapons in its arms and teeth are all forward-facing. Pharaoh Pelta, meanwhile, has an extremely armored back and flanks. To do any meaningful damage, the 2.0 would have to go for the limbs or underbelly, both of which are low to the ground, hard to reach easily, and getting in reach to do some strikes means the 2.0 is in the awkward position of having to aim low, which can compromise its speed. And losing speed near the Pharaoh Pelta means leaving yourself open for nasty retaliation. Pharaoh Pelta may not be able to land devastating blows as easily against the nimble opponent it is pitted against, but being low to the ground and having usable weapons on both ends means any major angle it's attacked from does have some kind of answer. And a horn jab to the thigh, bite to the leg, or tail swing to the knees or ankles of the Indominus 2.0 is going to compromise its speed.
Break his knees!
Greatly. And when that speed and agility keeping the 2.0 in the fight is gone, it would be curtains. Predator Rex absolutely can throw down.
I mean, all the Pharaoh Pelta would actually need to do is just take out one leg and then boom. He can easily win the fight.
Down with the best of them, and would greatly benefit from working alongside Pharaoh Pelta in a sword and shield combination. But for now, its ally proceeds on as the bulwark against the horde, with the shield leading so the sword can strike best.
Congratulations, Pharaoh Pelta.
Matchup number 2, Armored Titan versus Ceratops Barbaricus. This contest between the Armored Titan and Ceratops is one between arms and armored living tanks of war. Both excel in some of the same categories, while their differences allow them to accentuate their skills in others. Both are built to weather an onslaught of attacks by their opponents, with armor that is both extremely resilient, but also allowing for good flexibility to give them the reaction speed needed to effectively make deadly contact with the 2.0.
A good amount of armor on both sides.
How they were scored in this competition came down to their weaponry and fight methodology. Tyrannoceratops has numerous weapons front to back, but its best assets are undoubtedly its Triceratops-like horns. With
Definitely.
a direct charge, lunge, or gore attack, these horns could
All this fella would need to do is really just get the Indom 2.0 as it's going for like an above strike. And even if it tries going under, it would still risk as one of those horns just sliding past and still stabbing it. Not very deep, of course, mind you, but still.
potentially impale a 2.0 in a direct hit with enough momentum put behind it. Its high weight does mean charges would be limited compared to a normal Triceratops, but if conditions are right, these kinds of weapons just might be the best at penetrating through the crocodilian armor of
Even
its
I would
opponent.
have to say, yeah.
Striking the chest with those
Look at
horns
that!
would be a one-shot kill if they had enough force to impale the 2.0. The Armored Titan, meanwhile, has a devastating weapon of its own with very different attributes.
The
While its
tail.
claws, sheer weight, and even neck could be suitable weapons, its tail would be its best defense and offense. Resembling
Exactly.
the whip-like extremity of a Diplodocus, which could be potentially swung around at speeds exceeding 60 miles an hour. Even just half that speed with the kind of armor on its body would make this tail a shredding bludgeon.
Oh,
A clean
yeah.
hit to the face or limbs could break
It would be cutting flesh off with each and every strike.
bone and snap joints. The biggest distinction is that while the whiptail has much more reach and would land its hits much more easily than the horns, it would need to hit multiple times or strike a specific vital to be a clean kill. Remember,
Again,
we're
just take
talking
out a
about
leg.
hybrid with the base genome of a T-Rex,
So that'd be
an animal
difficult.
that had one of, if not the most robust skeletal arrangement of any theropod in existence. The horn attack, meanwhile, could be devastating with just a single
Ooh,
hit,
look
even
at
if
that.
it does require getting in much closer and risking a brawl. Something that Tyrannoceratops is built to withstand. The Armored Titan can serve as a fantastic guardian, using its height
Oh,
and reach
yeah.
to cover teammates and even keep multiple 2.0 at bay. However, for its quick kill capacity against an individual opponent in both this competition and for those 2.0 that might get past its armored comrade, Tyrannoceratops
Even I would-
proceeds on in the competition.
Even I would have to say the Tyrannoceratops has a lot better of a chance at winning this than the Armored Titan. While the Armored Titan does have size, it's too slow, and the only effective weapon it really has is well, stuff that needs to swing. And the Indom could dodge.
With its titanic compatriot kept on call. Matchup number 3, Atherotitan Christus versus Yamabrontorax. This would be a
Yamabrontorax.
clash of titans if these
Interesting
two
name.
had come to blows against each other instead of their common foe. Instead, this competition involving one hybrid composed of one of the most powerful sauropods that ever lived,
Damn.
and another built upon the strongest known hadrosaur of all time comes down to the smaller details. Yamabrontorax does
Like
have
what?
plenty of assets to call upon that make it a fantastic brawler. More than strong enough to endure hit after hit and give back twofold. It can thrash, stomp, swat, bite, or crush with all of the weapons across its body. Its
Okay,
companion,
that
the
is useful.
Atherotitan, stomps into the arena with very similar armor and spines, leveraged by sheer brute force to a mind-boggling degree. Either of these
It's
two
so
are large enough
big.
to handily overpower a 2.0 in a direct confrontation. If the carnivorous hybrid attempts to take them on head-on. Atherotitan would be much easier to outflank than its comrade. However, it is also substantially harder to critically wound. Gilgamesh has suitably
Yeah.
legendary defense, with the only vulnerable points in the underside of the throat where the armor isn't as thick as it would be elsewhere. Attacking this, though, requires getting into the potential death zone that is its forearms and jaws.
Yeah,
Gilgamesh
that's at least one upside. I mean, with I guess the one to call him Gilgamesh, because of its having a low stance, and it means that more of its armor is up, so the Indom has no chance of actually getting to it. And if it tries to go for it, it does just put it at risk of, well, chomp.
would be able to win the fight much quicker thanks to its higher reactivity and agility, helping it land more hits more consistently and earlier on into the fight. Atherotitan, meanwhile, trades a lot of that finesse for sheer force that could potentially end the fight in one hit. This one was extremely close, and Atherotitan
Oh, yeah, it could almost
is
go either
unique
way.
in that it is one of the only contestants that could conceivably fight multiple 2.0s at the same time and have a good shot at winning. What tilts the odds, however, is stamina. Gilgamesh arguably would get the win quicker in times where its titanic counterpart couldn't get that opening hit. When the fight drags on, however, things are going to literally heat up for the contestants, given how much force and energy they would be exerting. And because Athro-Titan is so gigantic and so heavily armored,
I honestly feel like if this thing actually did do that stomp attack anywhere near an actual arena, everyone would just be feeling the earthquake.
dissipating all that heat is going to be taxed. Even with sauropods having been specifically evolved for that function to help dissipate the heat, biology has its limits. There is a good reason why sauropods never evolved to have this much armor. One of them is that, well, they didn't need this much. Sheer
Big as
size
hell.
was enough
Look at
to
this.
weather the storm, and in turn, the exposed, in this case unarmored body parts, allowed heat to escape much easier than if it were encapsulated in thick hide and
Oh
armor.
my god,
If the
I don't
fight
like
turns
that.
into a slugfest, Gilgamesh having a smaller body size but also still plenty of surface area to vent off the building temperatures means it can stay in the fight longer by avoiding heat stress. Whereas the heavily armored Longneck would have a harder time dissipating heat than its more natural, less armored counterparts.
True.
All of that bony armor is going to insulate it and start increasing the temperature the longer the fight goes. Both of these are
Meaning the Titan would eventually die from heat stroke or become incapable of actually fighting back.
well armored, and initially it's easy to
Yeah,
think that
sitting
Athro-Titan
duck.
might finish the fight in better health. However, in this specific case, any attempt from the 2.0 to attack the weak spots of Gilgamesh puts herself at risk of being killed, but quicker, not giving enough time for the 2.0 to inflict significant wounds. This was the definitive factor. Adding stamina to the equation, Gilgamesh will be able to go the distance just that much more. Gilgamesh proceeds on to take the front lines, while
Great work,
Athro-Titan can be
Gilgamesh.
called in
Gilgamesh
for
for that.
heavy weapons.
That name's difficult. Great
Matchup
work.
number 4, Armatus Gigantus versus Monstrotherium Brutalis. Closing
here
up
we go.
our competition
Last
is the
matchup.
mightiest mammalian hybrid, contrasted with a compatriot that is superb in its simplicity. Armatus Gigantus is chiefly patterned after arguably the most powerful land animal to ever exist, with some extra add-ons. Monstrotherium Brutalis, meanwhile, is an unnatural gestalt that looks more like an ogre or beast of myth with a myriad of natural weapons that are simple but effective.
I guess
Both
it
of
kinda
these
does
two
look
have
like
the
a
raw
beast of
power to
myth.
put the 2.0 down for the count, but one of them would do much better in a specific environment, whereas the other is more generalized. Outside of being in a very cramped forest or swamp that would bog it down and reduce its ability to leverage its
bog it.
great reach,
Get it?
Armatus would be able to make contact with its opponent, at times even before or while the 2.0 could manage to pounce. While it isn't as heavily armored as other sauropods, being over 80
Like the
tons
last
still
guy.
makes it way larger than it needs to be to win a strength contest. A sauropod half its weight would be able to reliably triumph over a much lighter opponent, and that sheer bulk does mean even the areas that aren't as heavily armored still have plenty of padding and protection.
yeah.
What
Get
armor
they
it
bite.
does have will keep it in the game, even if the 2.0 manages to climb on top of it to try and attack the exposed back,
Oh,
making
it
it easier to
crushed
shake off the Indom and protect its neck. And once the fight is on the ground, it only takes one solid swing with over a dozen meters of reach and multiple tons of mass behind it to be a game over for a 2.0 caught in that position.
Look at that.
Monstrotherium, meanwhile, is a
The neck.
brawler with the best of them. But unlike its opponent, it lacks the ability to cleanly and reliably kill in one single blow if the fight came down to that. Health-wise, Monstro is clad in armor to protect it from several blows. However, being evaluated against a sauropod who could throw its weight around a lot easier means that a more heavily armored herbivore like Armatus would stack more wins in less time. The
would
angry
be
green
perfect.
Goliath that is Brutalis would be a much needed asset in clearing out 2.0 incursions in the very
Giga
biomes
mammal.
Armatus would struggle in. Denser forests and bogs would also give it the advantage in being able to rip up trees to use as weapons thanks to its dexterous arms. Especially in a swampy environment where the water and mud would even out the playing field with speed, this armored ogre would
Yes.
be an
Yes.
ideal choice. But as for taking on the 2.0 head-to-head in the open, Armatus marches forward on rumbling Earth.
Damn.
Next time
Wasn't
in the
expecting
Great
that.
Hybrid War, the Final Four, Caranoceratops, Pheropelta, Yamabrontorax, and Armatus Gigantus will face their
Ooh.
final tests to reveal who will be the winner of the first hybrid war. Only one hybrid will take the crown and the honor to face the Pale Menace and become the champion.
This is gonna be good. Alright everyone, that's going to be the end of today's video, and I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of y'all next time when we flick back on. Till then, this is Fox, signing out. Peace.